Hey folks, welcome back to Gaming Garbage, where we take a look at games, chat about the gaming news in the industry, and of course stream for fun when I can. Today we're going over the PlayStation All Digital going in 2028, the Saga Part 2. Now I did a Saga Part 1. If you want to do that, you can go and take a look at that over there. I'll have that at the end screen. But this is Saga Part 2. And the reason I'm doing this is because there really isn't any outlet or media or video yet that's really condensed all of this together in one thing. Also, too, it's really hard to keep up with it all on a day or even by hour basis. So that's what I'm doing here. So let's get started. Sony announced, of course, on July 1st that it's, basically, going all digital. Well, they announced their Fight Stick 6 days after the announcement. And the comments were massive with physical discs only. And that was not what anybody wanted. They're not acknowledging anything like this. And that was the same day, too, when Xbox announced that they have their mass layoffs in their Xbox reset. We also found out that according to a report that many publishers, retailers, and business partners were not told by Sony that they were doing digital only. They found out when the players did. One major exec of a major AAA publisher, though that's not announced, said, "We weren't informed that this was happening." Now, that's technically not verified, as at the time of this, I haven't been able to find that myself. But it does sound like, too, in other places that, retailers and other partners and vendors, like, they didn't know that this was actually coming. Players also started posting that they're canceling PlayStation Plus, and then they started posting that when they go to cancel, they were actually offered up to 50% off for up to 3 months plus an extra 3 months. Also, those canceling 12-month subscriptions were offered 25 to 33% off. And this is this isn't for everybody. This kind of seems, randomized, but it is happening for some people. We also found out that Sony's president on July 3rd sold roughly 56% of his own shares of Sony and got $4.7 million. Now, they have to plan for this, but the thing that's interesting, too, is that you can announce going digital only and saving the company money whenever you want. So that's pretty nice. We also found out at a later date, which I didn't write this down, but also found out that other executives also sold a lot of their shares. So yeah, insider trading much? That's what it sounds like. Now these have also, been put into months. I did that already. All right. We also found out that Sony didn't tell employees, apparently. They're upset because, this affects their jobs. This can affect their future pay, future projects, whatever. Because, again, if enough players or enough users do not like what Sony is doing, and there's already plenty to not be excited about, especially with price hikes and whatever else, whether that is specifically them or they're just, going along with everyone else, there's a lot of things to be frustrated about with console gaming right now, and this isn't helping. Not at all. Later, we heard from Jason Schreier from Bloomberg that Sony does not plan to reverse the digital-only decision. Sony wants to basically cut out the middleman and save money and increase profit. Again, it's always about the money. Follow the money. They also don't believe that enough will walk away when it comes down to it. They still think people will still buy the PlayStation 6 and enough will keep PlayStation Plus and just buy digital games anyway. Sony's already saying, Sony is currently already being sued for digital monopoly and manipulation in the United States, UK, Netherlands, Portugal, and I also believe Singapore as well now, though that one hasn't started. Portugal, Singapore is supposed to start this year. Netherlands, UK, and US were last year or even back in 2024. On July 8th, we got news that CNN is now going mainstream, talking about it going digital only. And it's not just CNN now, it's also NBC and what was the other one? And Fox News. So we have 3 major outlets now that have millions or even tens of millions of viewers that are now getting this into the mainstream to like the normies, the normal people that, don't live on the internet like we do. Also, Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer came out, and again, a ton of comments. Almost all of them were about the digital only, no disc, no buy, all of that kind of stuff. It didn't go very well. Sony also started removing and banning viewers on streams for commenting the same stuff. It's also not verified, but Sony has been now accused of buying analysts to actually calm players to kind of like show the benefits of digital, that the trend is going this way anyway. And the issue is that when we take a look at the Insomniac hacks, we get to see that a lot of digital versus physical discs, that the favored side is physical for a lot of the first party exclusives or first party games. And I would see that too with a lot of the older IPs also on Nintendo and also on Xbox. This is why the issue with kind of like Avowed not having a physical disc was a problem, and also with Nintendo with their key cards. So again, people want ownership. This is not necessarily about physical copies. This is about owning and having some control or rights to actually what you're purchasing. Otherwise, it's not a product, right? What is it then? Who knows? On July 10th, we learned that Brazil is also joining Stop Killing Games conversation, and that introducing a new bill would include customer protections on digital games. So that's wonderful. We're actually starting to get that. We're also starting to see, too, that polls, regardless of where, are showing that a lot of hardcore players still want physical games, or at least the option to actually buy and back up their games. Ownership is important. Other issues, too, for the cost of future is that, we're looking at $1,000+ for consoles, regardless of what you're buying, except for the Switch 2. That's going to be $500. Price hike starts September 1st. Yeah, with this, it's not going very well. The polls are honestly going horrible. Also, the EU Consumer Rights Commissioner is explicitly saying that they cannot force publishers to make physical discs. They have rights and, be able to have choice over how they want to distribute stuff, which is frustrating. We also found out too with Stop Killing Games that basically the EU is that they can make guidelines, to basically keep their games alive, but they can't again force companies to actually do that. So Stop Killing Games is going a new route, which is frustrating. But yeah, this whole thing with ownership, that's what all of this is really stemming from. I did hear that California bill looks like it is stalling over there for Stop Killing Games and digital rights ownership. But I'll make that in a separate video. Also finding out, too, that Sony is letting players know that God of War Laufey is available on disc, which we already knew. So are they getting worried? Now, we don't know if this is... Now, this was posted by Santa Monica Studios, but we don't know if it was forced or they were told by Sony to post it or if they posted it themselves. But somebody's worried, right? Letting know that it's going to be a physical game, which already most people already knew. But yeah, the backlash must be getting pretty bad. And then, yeah, at this point, NBC News and Fox News got to the mainstream talking about digital only and what that looks like and all of that kind of stuff. Also, the Dutch Consumer Group, which is already suing PlayStation and Sony for their digital store and abuse and monopoly, is also now using this as part of their lawsuit. They're currently suing them for $457 million, which is roughly nothing compared to what they make per year. But yeah, they're just using digital only as just more evidence, saying that it solidifies Sony's position to be more dominant and enable higher prices in the future. And yeah, that's absolutely right. Mexico is now also filing an antitrust lawsuit against Sony for all of this, and also EU retailers are saying that this takes away consumer choice and also the ability to have a used and pre-owned market. Because again, you can't have a true monopoly. There has to be some adjustments here. But importantly, this also takes away retailers' revenue. Okay, on the electronic side of things, probably TVs, some mobile gear, and then video games have been the biggest staples for a lot of retailers. Some retailers, they were all electronics, right? Like Radio Shack or Fry's or whatever. They don't really exist anymore. And so, yeah, just for games to now kind of be taken out. Some have already removed Xbox. Well, if all they have left is cards, which Sony has said they will have digital redemption cards in retailer stores. And man, if I was a retailer, I'd be like, nobody wants that. Nobody's going to buy it. It's just going to be wasted space. I'd take the hardware and that'd basically be it. There's also current projections right now, at least from one analyst, saying that Project Helix will have roughly 2 million sold in the first year. But when we take a look at PlayStation, it looks quite a bit better. 4 million roughly in the first year of launch, but PlayStation 5 was 7.8 million. PlayStation 4 was 18.5. Just, that is such a drop. That's more than cut in half every single time. From PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, and now the projection for PlayStation 6. I, of course, think the biggest thing is price and just the shortages of hardware and all this other kind of stuff. I definitely think it is too expensive for most people. Even the polls that I've had there say that they're just going to stick with what they got Maybe not even really switch over until they absolutely have to. But, digital only, this is not helping those that are the enthusiasts that actually spend the most. And yeah, you tick off the enthusiast, you're not going to get your sales, which is not good. Just for future reference, PlayStation 3's also was 5.5 million. PlayStation 2 was 10.6, and PlayStation 1 was roughly 2 to 2.5 in that first year of launch. So the only one that they're beating in projections is actually PlayStation 1. They're even losing to the PlayStation 3. So yeah, PlayStation 6 doesn't look like it's going to have a very good first year. That's horrific. Also, we got to see with most recently, we got to see that Sony is now saying that the Sony Flex Strike Fight Stick that they first announced with the Xbox layoffs, well, now the Fight Stick is delayed indefinitely. And the comments on that were also pretty brutal. And no, it's not because of the comments, apparently. It's because of hardware issues and acquiring hardware to actually make these. But this doesn't make any sense to me. If they have everything lined up and the announcement, because it was supposed to launch with Marvel Tokon Fighting Souls, which is out already or very soon to be out. But it doesn't make any sense if they already had it all lined up and now they're saying, oh, it's indefinitely delayed because of hardware issues. Wouldn't that have been worked out already? Literally, just before launch? Of course it would. Of course it would. So, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I think it's really because the comments, the enthusiasts, the people that kind of like a niche item, of course, but if players are not excited about what Sony's doing and then they're frustrated, well, yeah, maybe they're just going to delay it indefinitely. They say they will give an update at a later date, but we have no idea when that is. So, and maybe it's both. Maybe it is hardware. But I think, too, people pushing back also have something to do with it. So that is the current saga so far. And man, is it a lot of stuff. If you haven't watched the first video, go ahead and watch that. But yeah, this is brutal. There is really nothing going right with this because this is now getting into the mainstream media. Retailers are frustrated. You have more players that are frustrated, at least the enthusiasts that spend the most. And yeah, this is just not going away. This is going really bad. I'm curious, too, what Sony stock is. Pre-market cratered a little bit. So yeah, not great, not really going anywhere. It's still not the lowest ever it's been, right? Okay, we'd have to go back pretty far. But we've just kind of had this stagnation for a while. We just haven't really had a lot of movement in the last few years. We haven't talked about consoles stagnating. And again, this is Sony as an entire company. This is not just PlayStation. But yeah, PlayStation roughly made about $31 billion last year. So yeah, good for them. But again, this is not overly looking very, very good. Basically, since November, we've just had this deterioration of roughly 31% so far, kind of on average. It's kind of bouncing around. So it's not good. It's not looking great. The current earnings estimate is really bad, and revenue 17 billion. What was the last one? The last one was actually higher, and their standardized earnings were actually lower than what their current estimate is. So that is going up. That's good. But yeah, their dividend is now only 5 cents. It's really bad. Anyway, that's where it's at. Thanks for watching. If you liked it and enjoyed it, help share it, hype it, all that jazz. Comment. What do you guys think? Are you guys interested in getting a PlayStation 6? What are you thinking about with all this? Anyway, with that, I'll see you guys on the next one.